Hello and welcome to Spread Aviation. I'm Rob Dumovic. This week, we got a message from a fan named Steve saying, rather selfishly, I wanted to ask if you could consider doing a show about commercial pilot maneuvers. Well, Steve, I don't think it's selfish at all, especially when we can create content that helps other people learn. So this week, I'm going to be using Prepare 3D software in order to demonstrate what I'm looking for when I go out and execute commercial maneuvers. Some things to consider, some setups, power settings, and some really detailed nitty-gritty stuff that hopefully helps you out. So, let's step on over to the sim. Okay, so I'm flying along here in the Commander 114, and I'm actually over the Ohio area where I did most of my flight training. It's a very familiar area for me, and being Ohio, there's lots of straight line references. We can see some straight line roads over here, and you can see we got our emergency field out there. So before we do any maneuvers, we want to make sure we do our pre-maneuver check. I like to use GUMPS. Gas is on both. Gauges are in the green. Undercarriage is up. Mixture is rich, and power is coming down. So I'm actually going to set this power setting to maintain what I need for the specific maneuver that I'm going to be starting out with. So the first one that I like to do is the Lazy 8. Now, in order to accomplish any maneuver, we make sure we do our clearing turns. Here comes my GUMPS check. With the Lazy 8, I want my power setting to be more set up for cruise flight. So I'm going to set the proper RPM, 2300 RPM, and about 17-18 inches of manifold pressure. Going to be somewhere in that neighborhood. Maneuvering speed on this aircraft is 118 knots calibrated airspeed. And as I go through my clearing turns here and choose my emergency field, I'm doing 290s, one to the right and then one to the left, in order to line myself up with a crosswind. So the Lazy 8, I set up with a crosswind, and I'm going to do it on a kind of a funky altitude. So I'm going to use 3,300 feet, heading of north, because my wind is out of the west, and I'm going to try and pick some waypoints here. Now, in Ohio, we had nice straight lines, nice straight roads. So we can see the interstate down below us here, giving us a nice clear reference. The aircraft is trimmed up neutral, and my power setting is set. So I'm going to start the Lazy 8 by first noting my heading here. So I'm heading north, 3,300 feet and 118 knots. So I'm going to roll 15 degrees, and I'm going to start a nice gentle pull. I'm going to work real hard to stay coordinated with the airplane here, but this 15 degrees and beginning the pull for the 45-degree point is getting me that turn. So the 45-degree point, I'm using my heading indicator there and also looking off to the side. Now we've got our 45-degree point max pitch up, going to hold the back pressure, nose slicing through the horizon, 30 degrees of bank. There's my 90-degree point. You see that heading bug coming through, and the airplane's coming down through the 135 max, nose down. Airspeed's building, altitude's decreasing, and now I begin the rollout nice and gentle. Try and keep coordinated, because remember the name of the maneuver is Lazy 8. So we've got a tolerance on maneuver of plus or minus 10 degrees of heading, 100 feet, and 10 knots. So I'm a little bit fast, but I'm just continuing this roll, relaxing the back pressure, now reestablishing the back pressure. Keep on pulling, keep that nose coming up, keep the airplane turning, airspeed's going to bleed off, keep that yoke coming back. You can see the yoke traveling backwards. There's the 45 max, nose up, roll into the 30-degree point. Got lots of altitude there. There's that 30 degrees, working on that coordination. Oh, come on, rudders. There's the 90-degree point, nose slicing through the horizon, slicing down. I'm still holding all the same back pressure that I had before, trying to get that ball to center up, putting on a good amount of rudder there. And as I come down through here, watching that altitude, heading, airspeed, rolling out, back on a heading to north, and we got our minus 50, plus about 7, and we're back on the heading. So I'm happy being inside of airman certification standards on that. Altitude being within 100 feet, so I was at about 3250, airspeed within 10, and the heading right on. Now notice during the Lazy 8 we didn't touch the power. The power never changed. We stayed there at 2300 RPM, 19 inches of manifold pressure, and we actually were using the stability of the aircraft. So if I bring the nose up with a little bit of back pressure,
See how the airspeed bleeds off, the altitude goes up. Now, if I don't move the yoke, if I freeze this yoke, and watch what happens to the attitude of the aircraft as the airspeed bleeds off. See, here comes the nose. I'm just putting in an aileron input, trying to keep the wings level there. Now the nose pitches down on its own. Well, if I just hold this back pressure, I haven't moved the yoke yet. If I just hold this, you see how the nose starts to come up as the airspeed comes up. So here, as I come back to nose on the horizon, I just relax that little bit of back pressure, and the airplane is basically trying to come back to level at the same combination of airspeed and altitude, because it is dynamically and statically stable. So if I displace the aircraft, so we can see here, I put in this pitch input, I put in this elevator input, the nose comes up, little aileron inputs there, and the airspeed comes down. Watching the nose, just looking at the left here just to watch that nose. Don't really have to do that in real life. Looking forward, it's going to be your best visual input. A little bit of right rudder as gyroscopic precession tries to yaw that nose to the left with the pitch down. And now we just let the nose come down. Still haven't moved the elevator as the airspeed comes up. See how the nose starts to come up? And now I just relax all that back pressure. Right back, and the airplane is back. So now all you're doing with the Lazy 8 is you're doing that in a bank. So here comes the nose. This is not going to be to ACS standards. I'm just rolling the airplane and giving it some back pressure, and we're going to watch how the airplane just swings and slices through. A little bit of rudder there for coordination. Game doesn't quite like my rudder inputs. I'm putting them in. You can see I got a lot of rudder in there. Okay. And the nose is slicing down. There's our 135, max nose down. And as we come back to 180 degrees in heading, just roll the airplane out. And boom. Okay, so that's the Lazy 8. No change in power required. Nice cruise power setting, 2300, 1900. Actually, I would never cruise at this low of a power setting unless I was really trying to save gas. But yeah, just using that dynamic and static stability, the positive dynamic and positive static stability of the aircraft to bring us around this maneuver. But in order to do that, from that 45 point, from that max nose up, wherever that back pressure is, wherever that elevator is, basically you can just hold that all the way through the rest of the maneuver. If you relax that back pressure, here's what's going to happen. So I've got my bank angle in, I got a ton of nose up, the airspeed's coming up, and now see how the heading is changing? If I relax all the back pressure, see how the heading slowed down? Well, now the nose is going to fall. It's going to slice through the horizon, but I'm going to coordinate it. I'm no longer progressing through the heading change because I stopped pulling. So the elevator makes the airplane turn. See the difference there as I pull? See the heading change? Okay, so we're using all these elements that we should know as commercial candidates in order to fly the airplane and even let the airplane fly itself. Now, I didn't touch the trim. I didn't touch the power. And I worked real hard to try and maintain coordination, but I think there's something a little wonky about the flight model of the aircraft, because I had a lot of left rudder in there and it just would not coordinate. But so those are some of the keys. Know your altitude, know your airspeed, know your heading prior to starting. Power setting, that's going to maintain that VA. Trim for neutral. I'm hands off right here, and nothing's going on. And the airplane will seek, if you trim for neutral at your initial starting conditions, the airplane will seek that initial condition again. So, if you're looking to fly within the ACS standard, the airplane is actually helping you here. If you trim away from that initial condition, the airplane will now have a brand new equilibrium altitude or airspeed, and that may be more than 100 feet off or 10 knots off your initial starting condition, and that would not be good for maintaining that standard. So now that I've completed the Lazy 8s, both left and right, no pause in between, I like to move to the steep turn. Okay, steep turn I like to accomplish into the wind and at a power setting that's a little bit higher. So I'm going to do my clearing turns and my pre-maneuver check. I do a GUMPS check, and I'm going to start this turn, clear right. Just going to turn to the right. Going to do a 270 degree turn to the right, end up on a heading of west, putting the aircraft into the wind. And you are being judged. I'm going to try and move this heading bug here. Come on, heading bug. Come on. You are being judged on your ability to maintain altitude in between the maneuvers. Oh, I just made the yoke go away. That's not good. Okay, come on back. All right. So you are also being judged in between maneuvers on your ability to maintain altitude, clear the area for traffic, and accomplish the checklist that you need to. I'm just going to turn to a heading of west. So gas is on, both gauges are in the green, undercarriage is up, mixture is rich, power is now set at 1925. I am going to have a power change during this maneuver, so I want to make sure that I have adequate RPM, that I have adequate power available to make sure that the aircraft is doing what I need it to do and maintaining throughout the maneuver my plus or minus 10 knots. Now, I haven't changed really the power setting. In fact, I didn't bring up any more throttle, so even during this clearing turn here, I've lost a tiny bit of airspeed because I didn't change any power. I increased the drag on the airplane, but I didn't change any power. Okay, we got a nice emergency road to our left if we need to put the airplane down there. And we're ready to start our maneuver. Gumps check is complete. Seatbelt, shoulder harnesses, and switches. Okay, so I'm going to go left first. Always go left first. I'm going to look left, clear left. And rolling left, going for 50 degrees of bank, and adding power and back pressure as I go through the 30. Now, I was late on the back pressure and the power, and I'm light on the G. So you can see how I lost a bunch of altitude here, and I've got to work to get it back during the maneuver. If you lose it, don't worry about it. Try to get it back. The ball was a little bit out of center, so I apply a rudder input, try to get that back in. Airplane's climbing, coming back through north. Airspeed starting to drop, but the altitude's coming right back to us. Okay, so we're on altitude, on airspeed, working to coordinate. Come on, rudders, do your work. And there we go. Airspeed starting to creep up, power's coming down, not too much now. And here comes a heading west. Coordinated rollout, clear to the right. I just keep on rolling. Power got a little too high there through the level portion. Power's coming back up, back pressure's coming on, looking to maintain that 3,250 degrees of bank, about 2G, just shy of 2G, and that 118 knots of airspeed. So I got a plus or minus 10 on that, and I'm just scanning for traffic, keeping my eyes moving. Now this time we're doing a little bit better. We got a little bit more back pressure. We got it in earlier. I'm putting in rudder input. There we go. Now it finally bit. And 3,200 feet, still on altitude, heading, airspeed, looking for traffic, looking for obstacles. Everything looks good there. As we come through 2,700, now I'm going to unload. The yoke is going to come forward. You see how that slows the rate of heading change? Power's coming back down to that known power setting, and here we are, 270, 3,250, and 115 knots indicated. So we're well within our plus 10, plus 100, and plus 10. Plus minus 10, plus minus 100, and plus minus 10 on our ACS standards. Bringing that power back is going to help us maintain the speed and the altitude. Having that trim set for hands-off level prior to the maneuver means the aircraft stays here. I'm hands-off right now. The airplane's happy. It's seeking ACS. Okay, so we're back on a heading of west, and I'm going to make a clearing turn here because the next maneuver I'm going to do, turn left here, clear left, is going to be the Chandelle. Tiny bit of power through the clearing turn here. Whoop, hey now, don't you do that. So clearing turn here, gumps check, gas is on, both gauges are in the green, undercarriage is up for this maneuver. Power, I'm 25 right now for the turn, getting the altitude back from that little power change. Don't know why it did that exactly, but okay. And clearing here, emergency field, got a road down there, so I can use that. That's no big deal. Now for the Chandelle, I'm lining the aircraft up on the downwind. I'm going to do this into the wind. I'm going to perform this into the wind, and it's not necessarily because I get an increase in performance or anything like that. No, the airplane does not know the difference. I actually overturned there. That's okay. You can always turn a little bit more. Nothing wrong with that. Clearing turn requirements are 180 degrees minimum, so if I do a little bit more, no big deal. But here I am going to set up on a heading of east. I'm going to go to the left first, so I got my power set here, 18 inches, 2,500 RPM, 3,250 on the altitude, and I do like these kind of weird altitudes. All the Yahoos are at 3,000 feet, so I like to miss them by like 200 or so. Okay, so here I am heading of east. 3,250, 118 knots, right where we want to be. Aircraft is trimmed and happy, and I'm going to roll the aircraft to the left, clear left. We're going to do this maneuver to the left. We expect about a 500-foot gain in altitude. So here we go, clear left, rolling left, 30 degrees, full power now, and back pressure. So just like the lazy 8, I'm lazily pulling back, increasing the back pressure, bringing that nose up, looking for that 90-degree point, which is bugged on the heading of north. You could also say, hey, when we're parallel with this north-south road right here, but hey, you might not have a north-south road. Okay, so this is our max pitch up. As we continue through this portion, we're continuing to increase the back pressure, the rearward elevator movement, continuing to apply rudder to coordinate the airplane, and rolling out. So this airplane, it's got 260 horsepower. That's a little more than maybe your Cessna 172 RG or your Piper Arrow has, and it's doing a little bit better. So as we get through our 180 degrees of turn here, we want to be right on the edge of stall. I don't think I was strong enough on the pitch right there, but the airplane's real mushy. I'm looking for that stall warning. There it is. And in this aircraft, in the flight sim here, it appears that it stall brakes right at the stall warning horn, so there's no advanced warning there. Okay, so let's just imagine that didn't happen. We're going to treat this level off as if we got to 4,400 feet, and we're looking to maintain that altitude, accelerate the airplane with gradual nose down, and maintain that heading 270, that 180 degrees of heading. As the aircraft accelerates, we're just lowering the nose ever so slightly, relaxing the back pressure. And now that we're up at speed, we're bringing the power back down to where we had it initially. Oh, there's some kind of dead zone right there. It does not like. Okay. All right, come on, game, figure it out. Okay. So there we have a Chandelle. That was rather poorly executed. Now I'm going to do one. I'm going to do another one to the right here, and I'm just going to lose some altitude. So normally I wouldn't do that. There's your gear warning horn. I'm less than 14 inches of manifold pressure. That gear warning horn comes on. And I'm going to do a descending turn here just to stay VFR, get out of these clouds. No, not around there. And come back down to altitude. So I can do another gums check here. Don't have to, but gas is on both gauges. Are still in the green, undercarriage is up, mixture is rich. We're up in the LB real smooth. Power is 14, 25, 60-volt shoulder harnesses, and switches. Get on the left. Okay. Lining up parallel with this road, heading 090, let that speed come down, really chop that power, get lots of drag out there, and now anticipate that airspeed. There's our 19 inches of manifold pressure, and we're trimmed, and clear to the right, and rolling right, 30 degrees, full power, and back pressure. Now, if you got a powerful airplane, you don't necessarily, we're going to have to knock it off. We're going to break off this maneuver, get away from this cloud. We got to maintain VFR, folks. So, if you do find yourself turning towards the cloud, hey, get out of there, get out of that situation. Okay, power's back, descending down, there's 3,000, looking for traffic. Okay, this is typical Northeast Ohio weather, actually, getting these clouds coming in and interfering with our plans. Okay, so here we are, gonna line back up. That was a 90 left, here's a 90 right, nothing's changed on the configuration. 118 knots is my target. I'm going to line up with this road, 3,000 feet. Okay, so 19 inches, 2,500 RPM. We'll try this to the right again. Clear right, no clouds over there. And here we go, rolling right, 30 degrees. Power's coming up, and I'm just going to stop it at 25 inches of manifold pressure here. Not going to go full throttle. And bringing on that back pressure, getting the nose way up. We were a little shy. Not a little shy, but we needed a lot more nose up last time. So there's our 90-degree point. So whatever this pitch attitude is, we're going to try and hold this with increasing back pressure as we come through the maneuver. Finishing our turn here on our heading of west, we're slowly rolling the airplane out, slowly looking for those wings level to finish our turn. And I got a little aggressive there at the end, but there we are, just above a stall, about 10 knots above a stall. Stall warning would be going off in your airplane normally at this point. Now we slowly lower the nose. We're at 3,800 feet. Slowly lowering the nose. Oops, she's got a little descent, so just bring that nose up just a hair. There we go. Continuing to relax, and there's this cloud again. Hello, cloud. All right, so accelerating, using all that power this time. Just let her work. 3,800 feet, keep her in level here, and there's our 118 knots, and we'll stay away from this cloud. Okay, I know it's a sim. I'm gonna bump those clouds up. 1 second, just gonna pause here. All right, hold on. All right, we're back. We moved those clouds out of the way. No more clouds for us today. So hopefully that helps you understand the chandelle a little bit. Again, the trim, make sure it's set up to help you maintain what you want as far as that ACS is concerned. Altitude, airspeed combination. So I'm actually going to descend here a little bit. I don't really have, oh no. So chandelles are a great maneuver to do before you do your steep spirals, because they're a maneuver that can help you gain altitude in order to prepare for the steep spiral. Now the steep spiral is really just a turnaround point from altitude where you're using bank angles steeper than maybe normal, and you could be doing the same thing as far as the shallow side. I mean, you've got up to 60 degrees of bank, and you've got down to wings level. So depending on what the wind velocity is doing, and here it's 27014 today, you may, on your upwind leg, be wings level if the wind is strong enough in order to maintain your constant radius around your point on the ground. And there's a nice little spot right there. Now I'm doing this in a low wing aircraft, which can be a little more difficult to see the actual point. So let me give you my trick for taking care of that. With the low wing aircraft, if you can't see the point at any time, don't worry about it. So as I fly towards this field here with a little brown patch by it, I'm going to lose the reference to the brown patch when the wing goes over top. Well, that's okay, because I know what's around. I can see that there's that little road over there. There's that little dark patch in the trees right there. I've got that angle in the road, and I can take a look. Oh, hey, look what's around. So don't worry about what you don't have. Use what you do. And if you ever have any problems with that, just keep trying. Just keep practicing. Look around. Don't fixate on a spot. Keep those eyeballs moving. So with the steep spiral, we have to accomplish 3 360s before 1,500 feet. So I'm going to kind of test this out here. Half-mile radius. I'm a little close. So I'm just going to drive out. I'm going to go up to 5,500 feet. It gives me 4,000 feet to play with on this maneuver. Okay, now altitude is my friend. So I'm going to leave the airplane clean. So here we go. Power's coming back just above gear warning activation, and I'm going to hold about best glide. Okay, so here we are. We're on the downwind side. Gas is on both. Gauge green. Undercarriage is up. Mixture's rich. And I'm just going to hold about the top of the white arc here. Okay, so nice steep angle through the downwind, and then shallowing as we come through the crosswind, and then continuing to shallow as we get to the upwind. So this maneuver takes a little bit of time. And I typically like to bug my wind, but for some reason, the heading indicator, the heading knob just did not want to move. Is that the heading indicator? That's the heading indicator. This is heading hold selector. It's trying to move. It's just too darn slow. Okay, so still referencing the point here, trying to maintain, got a little bit of trim going on, trying to help me maintain the best glide speed here. Just top of the white arc is all I'm using for today, but typically I will use best glide. It gives me the most amount of time. So we just did 180 degrees of turn, and we went from about 5,200 feet down to 45. So 700 feet per 180, that's going to be 1,400 per 360. And if we do the math on that, let's call that 1,500 per 360. I need 4,500 feet to accomplish my 3 turns. Now, 45 plus 15, because that's the minimum, means that I need to be 6,000 AGL. Well, I started this a little shallower, so we're going to see, or a little lower than that, so we're going to see how this works out. Test your aircraft out and know what the performance is so you can set your altitude goal. And here we can see I've steepened up the bank angle just a little bit as I'm getting to the downwind side here. As the ground speed picks up, we see what it is, 120 knots ground speed, 120 knots ground speed, 100 indicated. So yeah, that's a pretty good amount of wind, a realistic amount of wind. But we're spending not a lot of time out on this side of the pylon, still making that constant radius using wind correctors. I'm going to try and hold, seems like she does a little better at about 95, 90 knots. And as we get through the crosswind here, we can see how our ground speed has changed. We're showing 79 and on a 92 indicated. And as we come around here, shallowing the bank angle even more, getting into the wind, 74, 73, 72. So you can see what effect that wind is having. So we're at 3,800 feet. I know the field elevation around here is about 1,000. So I need to finish this by 25. So I'm at 37. I got one more turn to do. Not really going to work, but that's okay. With this maneuver, if it's not going to work, you could break off. Also, if you're doing... hey, I just realized this wasn't on. Oh wait, is that pitch trim? I don't know if I really want to change that. Okay. If you're doing this maneuver, see how the ground speed's picked up as we come around to the downwind portion. If you're doing this maneuver, you probably also haven't done steep turns. So according to the ACS, if you do, remember it's A or B and C or D. It's up to the examiner. They could have you do all four, but more than likely, they are only going to have you do one of either A or B and or C or D. So if you do I believe it's the steep turns, you don't have to do the steep spirals. I'll double check that in a second. So here we are coming through 3,400 feet. 2,500 is going to be our floor. And we'll go from there. So the next maneuver that we're going to do after this, not a whole lot's going to change from this point on. Some examiners may give you at the completion of this a simulated engine failure, so be ready for that. And here I got a little too close to the point that we're spiraling down. So just go wings level, kind of fly away a little bit, get your spacing back, and rejoin that radius. So if you're trying to fly around the radius here, around the circle, and you end up too close, just fly out, intercept, and then pick that turn back up. Okay, so here we are. Oh yeah, there we go, back on radius. So we've rejoined at a little steeper bank angle there, and bringing the aircraft around. All right, so 3,000 feet. We got 3,500 to go. Let's see, we did 1, 2. Is this the third one? I lost track. So you want to keep track. So simulated engine failure from here, boom. And you want to go for that best glide if you're already there. And since this is a sim, I can kind of do. Is there a gear silence? Oh, that would be nice. I'm just going to put the gear down. I think. Maybe. Maybe not. Push button. There we go. No. Okay. All right, airspeed, best glide, best place to land. We got it right there. And checklist flow. That just disengaged my autopilot. There we go. Okay, so I'm just checking that. So we're 2,500 feet. We're 1,000 foot field elevation. 2,000 is going to be the pattern altitude. So I'm going to keep the aircraft clean. I would like to actually land with the headwind, but I haven't put myself in a position to do that. So we're going to take what we've got here, making sure there's no other options. We're going to squawk 7700, 121.5, mayday, mayday, mayday. Commander 114, 2 souls on board, engine failure, going down in the field north of Route 80. Okay, point of beam gears coming down. We're going to treat this just like our power off 180. Okay, good. 3 green. Okay, make sure it's props full forward for the go around. And then our flaps, we'll do what we need to do here. Okay, come on, tailwind flaps are coming full. Little slip, just to bring the aircraft down. And go around. Okay, we might have been able to get that onto the runway. I'm not sure from there. But hey, this is all simulated, right? We don't need to push the boundaries. Okay, positive rates. Gear up. Pitching for VY. All right, so out of this simulated engine failure, we're going to pull the power back, 25 square METO power for the climb. We're going to climb up to our pivotal altitude. Why would we pivotal altitude? Well, because we're going to do our 8s on pylons. So 8s on pylons, I like to pick 3 points, a midpoint, and then 2 endpoints. I don't know about the terrain around here giving us any good visible pylons for us to use, but I always want to line this up with or I want to line my pylons up perpendicular to the wind. So I'm going to set my power here. I want 2,500. Oh, I'm moving the wrong lever. Okay, 2,500 RPM and 2,500 RPM. Okay, so gumps check here. Gas is on. Gauges are on, or gas on both gauges are green. Undercarriage. For this maneuver, I'm going to want to be gear down because I'm close to the ground, and for the terrain, if I'm going to go into an emergency field here, it's probably going to be this road that's running left to right, and I'm going to use this as my pylons, or at least I'm going to attempt to. So here we are, pivotal altitude on the upwind. So I've got the slowest ground speed right now, and there's a couple different ways to kind of do this. You can either look halfway up the wing tip, or halfway out the wing, halfway up the wing strut, or roll the airplane 30 degrees. I got a tree out there, 30 degrees. No, there's more trees out there. This is not good pylon making, but that's all right. Okay, so with the gear down, you got extra drag, so you're going to need a little extra power in order to maintain your airspeed, in order to maintain that maneuvering speed. And what I'm doing through here is I flew outbound. I'm kind of doing a teardrop entry into this. So I always want to do the maneuvers to the left first, so I'm going to 45 around this thing, and to make the turnaround, come over top of the midpoint at a 45-degree angle. So I did that a little tight. Maybe you want to fly outbound 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and use those instrument flying skills. Just going to set up here on the 45. We're accelerated up to speed. Going to set my power setting. Maybe, I don't know if it lets me. Okay, so there's 45 degrees over top of the point, and I've got that dark tree right there, that nice dark tree right next to the power pole. And I'm going to roll the airplane, put that wingtip right on. So I've got this nice line that runs right out the wingtip. I'm actually increasing power here, so I'm going to use that line, put it right on those points, and losing a lot of speed here. Now that's actually going to affect the pivotal altitude. Now as I'm looking at this pylon, I'm watching its motion, and see how it's moving back along the wing? I actually want to pull the yoke back to go get that thing, so pivotal altitude has gone up. Now the pylon is moving forward from my reference line. Let me coordinate the airplane, and so I'm going to nose down. And it's this battle, trying to maintain the same speed here. It's this battle to maintain that reference line. Now over the 45, wings level, back on that same pivotal altitude, about 850 feet here. And we've got the dark tree next to the skinny tree, so it looks like an evergreen. Now as I'm climbing, I'll make sure I'm coordinated here. Bank angle, do what you got to do to try and keep on the pylon. And I'm using lots of power here as I go into the wind, and the ground speed drops, and I'm as I have that high pivotal altitude, high ground speed for that first part, and I had to climb, so I gained a lot of altitude there. And now as I come around, the airspeed's starting to climb, nose, I'm doing what I need to do to just keep that pylon right on that reference line, and the airspeed's actually dropping here. Pivotal altitude should be coming down. Here it's finally starting to move, and it's getting behind me actually. So that's what I actually expect to happen right here, because I'm turning with the tailwind. So I expect the ground speed to pick up, and I expect the pivotal altitude to climb. So keep those eyes moving. There's a 45 over top the midpoint. Keep those eyes moving, looking for obstacles, other traffic, keeping an eye out on those engine gauges, making sure the engine's still running healthy. And as we come over the center, come over a midpoint, we look again for that power line right next to that tree, that power pole, and we roll the aircraft, put it right on it. There we go. So it's moving back, so I've got to pitch up. There we go. That might actually be the wrong power pole. So make sure you got good pylons. Make sure you're trying to keep the airplane coordinated. Don't cheat by stepping on a rudder to move that wing around. Examiners see that stuff. Use that pivotal altitude. So here you can see we have to nose down to go get it because we're into the wind. The ground speed is dropping. Well, that was fun and exciting, folks. If you're ever interested in doing aerobatics find a qualified instructor, IAC.org. Go out there, find a PITS or a decathlon or an extra, and go fly and experience that world.
All right, so I hope those demonstrations helped you out. And in the future, if you ever have any questions, feel free to send us a message, Instagram, Facebook, or just send us an email, hello@spreadaviation.com. We're checking that email every time something comes in, so we're happy to try and do something special that helps people understand what's going on. So have a great day. Thanks for joining us here, and remember, fly safe.